You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service. Your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/tryus.
The world's most exciting podcast, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, New York Times best-selling author and National Radio Hall of Fame inductee, Michael Savage.
I'm Michael Savage, host of the Savage Nation podcast, home of borders, language, and culture. Hear my new podcast each week as I speak with top guests from around the world. Right now, we have over 700 shows in our library, featuring interviews with world leaders, scientists, faith teachers, and more, including President Donald Trump, Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb, Jerry Falwell, and so much more conversations and commentary you cannot find anywhere else. Other guests have included Samuel Cohen, the father of the neutron bomb, Breitbart's Alex Marlow, the great author Peter Schweitzer, Colonel Douglas McGregor. Be here or be nowhere. The Savage Nation Podcast. Catch the Michael Savage Podcast on all podcast platforms every Tuesday and every Friday.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, I want to start off with a hypothetical, a long shot, but something that's, could happen, would be certainly interesting. One of the things that I've mentioned is this draft class is unlikely to meet the same level as the last two draft classes, which have been fantastic. And it's not even necessarily a talent thing. It's just there's nowhere for him to play thing, right? We've got three safeties with one safety spot available. We've got a running back who is at best going to be the number 2 running back. We've, got a corner who's a 7th round guy behind a bunch of corners. There's just not a lot of guys that got drafted. Monk is a pretty big long shot. I mean, it's possible, but probably not. So it just doesn't seem super likely that a lot of these guys are going to be making an impact. There is a scenario, though, looking at the three safeties, where all three safeties could actually be starters. And the way in which that happened, the thing that actually sparked this thought, I mean, we kind of understand how we get 2 on the field, right? But there was an article written by Felipe Rice, something like that, over at zonecoverage.com. Katon Oladapo, I had to go back. I literally pulled up the Beast Guy because I'm like, how do you pronounce it? It's Katon Oladapo. Katon Oladapo is the ideal fit for the Green Bay's bullet position. Obviously, this is in reference to a positional variant that is used by Jeff Hafley. And leaving aside all of the overly complex nuance to it, it's essentially a safety playing linebacker. The idea being we've got 3 linebackers. One of them is, in this case, Oladapo, and he is to function as a linebacker, but obviously a guy that is much more adept at coverage than your typical linebacker. On top of that, he also is supposed to be a pretty solid pass rusher. Now, we can certainly talk about Williams, who is also a really good pass rusher, but for the sake of what we're doing here, we would obviously have Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker as our number 1 and 2 linebackers, with Oladapo as our bullet linebacker, which is also known in some other systems as a Viper. I'm sure there's a bunch of other names as well. Now, first of all, we haven't looked at these guys in a while. If we go back to PFF, let's keep in mind Oladapo was the 5th highest graded safety in all of college football last year. It was Dylan Theinman out of Purdue, Kevin Winston out of Penn State, Hunter Wohler out of Wisconsin, Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, and then Keton Oladapo. He was actually the 2nd highest in run defense, though. Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo is the only safety that had a higher run defense grade. Oladapo had a 91.3 run defense grade. The other interesting thing, though, is if you look at the guys, the other safeties that have pretty high run defense grades, there's only 6 that have a 90 or higher. Of the 6, 0 of them outside of Oladapo have sacks. The highest of anybody is, as far as pass rush attempts, is Devin Boykin, who had 21. Oladapo had 36. The highest as far as pressures was Dylan Theinman, who had 4 pressures. Oladapo had 9. And then nobody else had a sack. Oladapo had 2 sacks. So of the guys who are really solid run defenders, he's also the best pass rusher of the group, at least the most productive. He's actually tied for 12th overall with pressures, tied with a big pile of other guys, including Sion Vaki, for example, out of Utah. But again, if you're looking for a guy that can be a well-rounded player, Oladapo is one of the best in the business. 88 overall, 91 run defense grade, 78 tackling grade, and an 84 coverage grade. He just runs the gamut. Now, his pass rush grade was a 67, but again, he did it fairly often and was relatively successful when doing it. Now, keep in mind, he is injured. Actually, kind of an interesting thing. He had surgery on his toe. He had a broken toe. The surgery was done prior to the draft by Dr. Robert Anderson. Dr. Robert Anderson is an associate team physician for the Green Bay Packers. So a week before the draft, very well known. I think he does a lot of foot stuff, if I'm not mistaken. He's a lot of people have flown into Green Bay to get this guy. I don't know if it's everything from the waist down, legs, knees, hips, ankles, or if it's just a foot thing, but whatever. Very well-known guy, but it's interesting to me that the Packers probably had a little bit of insight on Oladapo's injury from the associate team physician for the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is just from Keton, but he says he believes he'll be ready and will have made a full recovery by the start of training camp in August. Whether or not that's just him being optimistic and we don't see him for a long time, I don't know. But I think if he can be there by the start of training camp, he's got as good a shot as anybody at playing anywhere, whether that's the bullet position, the slot position, the safety position, whatever it is, to be able to get a chance to get him out there full time. If he misses time, it's going to be really tough. But either way, this doesn't have to be a 2024 prediction. We could be talking about 2025 and or beyond. So, as I said, I think there's a chance that all 3 could get on the field. Well, where are the other 2? Well, I kind of gave it away a second ago, but as we all know, there's been a ton of talk, potentially, about Javon Bullard playing in the slot. Now, the only reason I've really been skeptical of this is because it's not even because I don't think it makes sense. It's just kind of knowing the team and knowing how these conversations go. This just feels like one of the things that the fans think makes a lot of sense, and the Packers do kind of just the most boring thing. All right, it's just the least radical thing. Like, we're not taking a safety and putting him in the slot, and then taking another safety and putting him at linebacker, and then putting our third safety at safety. It's just the guy that was drafted the earliest goes and plays safety, and the other guys sit and wait for an opportunity. But still, if you really think about it, Javon Bullard is a really talented guy. Keyshawn Nixon is a talented kick returner. He's done some good things for us as far as being a slot corner, right? He's made some big plays. I'm certainly appreciative of him. I'm not trying to come down hard on him, but he is in no way a premier football player. Keyshawn Nixon, since he's been a Green Bay Packer, his defensive grades have been 61 and 60. His coverage grades have been 60.4 and 60.4. To act as though that can't be improved upon is crazy. Javon Bullard, just like the other 3 guys, also graded out quite well. 3 years at Georgia, 2 years as a starter. His grades were 80.4 and 82.4. He had an 80.4 coverage grade in 2022, an 88.4 in 2023. Real solid coverage guy. Of his snaps, he played 80 in the box, 362 as a free safety, but 144 came in the slot. Now, again, unfortunately, you can't break down PFF grades and say well, actually, you know what? That's not entirely true. You can't do it by position, however. Give me a sec. All right, so they don't have grades, but they do have specific statistics while in the slot. So he played 81 coverage snaps. He was targeted 18 times. 7 of those were caught for 57 yards. He gave up 0 touchdowns and had 1 pick, had a 24.5 passer rating when targeted. Now, compared to the other Georgia safeties who actually played more snaps in the slot, their passer ratings were 69.2 and 54.5. His was a 24.5. It's actually the 11th best passer rating. 11th best passer rating among safeties to play in the slot. You got Kylan Ross, Kyron Beecham, Tucker Large, Tim Stewart, Samori Dukes, Nick Murray, Saiku White, Kobe Savage, Byron Threats, Tim Cotres, and then Javon Bullard. So notice how I just didn't list any names that are like, oh yeah, you got like 5 or 6 guys that were in this draft that are just better at it. No, if you're talking about guys that actually got drafted, this is your dude to play in the slot, assuming you want to use this metric. In fact, let me see what SIS has to say. Well, we'll circle back to SIS because I want to kind of go through everybody. But that would be his plan, right? He's a solid coverage guy. That's primarily Bullard's thing, right? I mean, he grades out well across the board. He's actually got a decent tackling grade, which is, of course, important for every position on defense, 78.4 grade. Run defense is a 67, whatever. But coverage is that's his jam, right? He is a coverage guy. So it makes sense. That leaves Evan Williams to be the safety next to Xavier McKinney. Now, he is also a pretty well-rounded guy, but with a real interesting knack for pass rush. Now, obviously, this would be cool for the bullet position. If you wanted to kind of switch some things up, maybe we could speculate that maybe he could be that guy. He's got a solid run defense grade, decent enough tackling grade, elite pass rush grades, and he's been doing that for like 3 years. Coverage is kind of his lowest attribute, but still a 72 in 2023, a 70 in 2022, and a 73 in 2021, going through his Oregon and Fresno State years, the last 3 years. But either way, he did play as a strong safety, which would primarily be his role next to Xavier McKinney. You'd see him a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. You could see him rushing the passer, disrupting at the line, coming up and hitting people. He's real solid at that. He's a little bit of a bigger guy compared to, for example, Javon Bullard, which makes sense. He's going to be the slot guy, but 6'1", 205 compared to Bullard, who is like 5'11", 195, something like that. And again, this seems kind of like a silly exercise. It's one of those lazy off-season, like there's nothing else to talk about, so let's talk about some nonsense that maybe is going to happen. But again, who are the guys that you look at and you're like, no, you're not going to take that job? You're telling me that Evan Williams, who's going to get on the field, and day one is going to be flying around the field, he's going to be a very aggressive downfield attacker. He is a really versatile weapon as a blitzer with a new defensive coordinator that likes to use creative blitzing, plays, schemes, whatever. He's not going to beat, Anthony Johnson? Really? The 7th round pick is not going to get beat by the 4th round pick, Evan Williams? Why? And again, I mean, that's honestly the easiest sell of this group. Again, though, you look at Javon Bullard and you say, I don't know if they're going to take it away from Keyshawn Nixon, but you also have to remember, this is a new defensive coordinator. He doesn't have any allegiances to Keyshawn Nixon. It's not like Joe Barry's running it back and Keyshawn's been his guy for many, many years. He's coming in clean, and he's looking at really talented guys next to Keyshawn Nixon, who I don't know if he's going to be as good as Bullard. Now, it really just comes down to how often are they actually going to give him the opportunity, as opposed to just sticking Bullard at safety and not giving other guys opportunities. But what I'm saying is, you put Oladapo at linebacker, you put Bullard at safety, you put Evan Williams, in the slot, you put Evan Williams at safety. Tell me who wins those jobs over them. Maybe the toughest would be Oladapo winning the linebacker spot. But again, he's not really winning a linebacker spot. We're talking about assuming that we're looking to recreate this bullet position, which may not be, your typical base. It might be just sort of a rotational, once in a while thing. I don't know. But assuming there is a bullet position, who else is going to win it? Which one of the linebackers is going to take that from Oladapo? You can say Williams, if you want to just swap them out, that's fine. But the point is, we're talking about 3 safeties on the field. Which linebacker is going to be better for the bullet position or safety for the bullet position than Oladapo? Nobody. So as unlikely as it seems that all 3 would be starters, if you just put them in those spots and ask the question, who's going to win those jobs? I understand Keyshawn's got a fan base. I understand he's a likable guy. I understand we want him out there returning kicks, which I still, to this day, ask the question, are we sure he's still top dog with the new kickoff rules? It is different. You're looking for a different style of returner. It doesn't mean he can't do it. He might still be fantastic. He might be the best. But we don't know that. So I'm just saying, I don't think it's impossible that we see, we're certainly going to see at least one. One of these 3 is going to win the safety spot. That's a done deal. But where else are we going to see these guys? And again, remember, it's not like you just pick 11 guys for defense and those are the only ones that go out there. There's certain packages and sub-packages and things, so we may see this, that, or the other. There are maybe certain times when you may want a safety out there instead of a linebacker. Sometimes you want a linebacker instead of a safety, which again, which one of the safeties is going to win that job? Maybe it just ends up being Bullard coming up. And then, Oladapo or Evan Williams ends up taking the safety spot, and that's really all it is. Or maybe you just have a guy ready to rock and roll at all times. Maybe you just got Katan Oladapo just, whenever we need, that 3rd and long comes out, he just runs out there. He's your new linebacker. Heck, maybe we got 2 safeties out there. Maybe Williams and Oladapo are out there playing linebacker with Edgerrin or Quay. I don't know. I still think the least interesting thing is probably the most likely, and it's going to be Bullard playing safety, and Keyshawn is staying in the slot, and the linebackers are going to be linebackers, with maybe some occasional rotation going on, in which we have 2 safeties, 3 total safeties on the field, 2 of them being from the rookie class. But again, I just genuinely believe if you give these guys, if you had the same competition in the slot that you have for safety right now, instead of these 3 guys fighting for that one safety spot, if you had these 3 guys and Keyshawn fighting for the slot job, I would borderline be surprised if Keyshawn Nixon won it. Anyways, why don't we go ahead and take a break? My son started collecting football cards. I had no idea what the heck I was doing, so I went out and bought him one of those binders you put all the cards in and all that kind of stuff. Turns out, card collecting has come a long way since when I was a kid, and that's what people did. Now, there is a new way to buy, sell, and trade cards. It's called Arena Club. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the all-in-one trading card platform that you have to sign up for. Over at arenaclub.com/packdaddy. We actually did a whole YouTube video about this. I would encourage you to check it out. It is a fantastic website. You can, as I said, you can buy, trade, sell, but also you can display all of your cards right there on the platform. It gives you all of the grading. They'll even grade your cards. Their grading combines AI as well as human grading to get the most accurate grading of all your cards. And right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. That's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service. Your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
All right, so real quick, popping over to SIS. Interestingly enough, they have some different numbers here. As far as playing in the slot goes, Oladapo and Williams do not grade out as well on an EPA per target basis as Javon Bullard. It's not that big of a difference, but for EPA, you want this to be negative from a defensive side of things. Oladapo is 0.19, Evan Williams 0.12, and then Javon Bullard is negative 0.018. So basically zero. Interestingly enough, that's almost exactly what Keyshawn Nixon's EPA per target was. It was negative 0.02. So 0.018, 0.2, it's like, almost identical. So nobody really on an EPA basis was phenomenal in the slot, but it does look like Javon Bullard was the best as far as EPA is concerned. If you look on a positive play percentage, Evan Williams was the highest at 42.9%. Bullard was 40%, tied with Oladapo. Boom percentage, you've got Oladapo 30%, Evan Williams 21.4%, Javon Bullard 20%. Bust percentage, Evan Williams just 7.1%, Oladapo 20%, Bullard also 20%. Keyshawn Nixon, 44.4% for positive plays, 27.8% boom, 16.7% bust. Pass rush stats, Evan Williams is certainly higher than most, even on a per basis. So if you look at points saved total, Evan Williams leads with 6.5, Oladapo 3.87, and then Javon Bullard is at 0. They only have him down for one pass rush. But even on a per rush basis, Evan Williams 0.325, Oladapo 0.121. Points above average per, Evan Williams is number 1, then Oladapo. Positive play percentage, 2.9%. It's actually higher for Oladapo, and then 1.6% for Evan Williams. So those are the two top pass rushers. Again, Evan Williams seems to be a little bit better, but Oladapo certainly is solid at it. Then you look at tackling, which, obviously important, again, for all positions, but mostly I would want it to be for the bullet sort of linebacker hybrid one. So if you look at points saved, Oladapo's number 1, then Evan Williams, and then after that is Javon Bullard. So 16.2 for Oladapo, 15.3 for Williams, and 5.49 for Bullard. If you look at a per play basis, it's Evan Williams number 1 at 0.059. Oladapo is 0.052. Bullard is 0.021. So there's Williams and Oladapo are very close, 1 and 2, right next to each other, pretty much for pass rush and tackling. There's similar styles of safety, and then Bullard is different. He's not as much of a pass rusher. He's not as good of a tackler, but he's a better coverage guy. If you look at just some of the stats, tackles per game, Evan, and this is, so I have all the safeties from all 3 teams, so you've got 12 total safeties, but number 1 among the 12 is Evan Williams, 7 tackles per game. Number 2 is Oladapo with 6.1 per game. Javon Bullard is 4th with 4.9 tackles per game. The one thing, though, which is really weird that the other two are valued higher, Javon Bullard seems to have significantly less broken tackles and missed tackles. So I don't know if it's just that the other guys are, tackling behind the line of scrimmage, that kind of stuff, or what. But if you look at just fundamental tackling, not missing tackles, it actually does seem like Bullard would be the better of the three. If you look at it from a percentage standpoint, broken plus missed tackle percentage, 10.6 for Bullard, 15.1 for Oladapo, 15.7 for Williams. So again, I think it fits. I think you can also make a pretty strong case for Bullard just being a solid safety, though, which might be the biggest hindrance to the 3-safety plan. All right, moving on from that, one of the other things to keep an eye on as we move closer to training camp is some of the guys that may potentially hold out. Now, there shouldn't be any Green Bay Packers. However, if you look at the list of potential holdout candidates, you're going to see people on that list like Tua. Reason being, Tua wants a contract. Now, we all really hope it doesn't come down to that and are assuming there's no way it would come down to that. But when you've got guys like Stafford and Tua, maybe Dak, on the list of potential holdouts because they're waiting on a big contract, you realize that Jordan is the other one in that same camp. I have to assume that both Jordan and the Packers would love to avoid something like that, like desperately want to avoid something like that. I mean, as great as the locker room is, as much as everybody looks up to Jordan and everything else, the last thing Jordan wants is to not show up and not be there for his team. The last thing the Packers want is, now that they've got the locker room in the right way, to have it start to fracture because they're not paying Jordan. Not that that necessarily is going to happen, but yeah, I would not want to screw with it. We just got out of a contentious situation with Aaron Rodgers. We do not need to start day one with a contentious situation with Jordan. But as of right now, here's the complete list of people that are on the watch list. And yes, Jordan Love is on the watch list. We've got 11 people. The highest likelihood right now is T. Higgins. T. Higgins has been talked about as a trade candidate, cut candidate since forever. Apparently, he's already requested a trade and has not signed his franchise tender. So it seems even more serious than just a holdout like I want a new contract. It's, I want the heck out of here. So that's something else that we'll have to look into. I don't know if we'll do that today or a different day, but potential cut candidates as we get through training camp, because, it's not all just scrubs that can't cut it. Sometimes there are rookies that come in and replace guys, and some guys with a little bit of talent might be left out there for various reasons. One of those reasons is just demanding to be forced off a team. Now, do I want T. Higgins? No, I don't, but it is an example. Some other high likelihood holdouts: CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys, a lot of wide receivers. He did skip mandatory minicamp, looking for a new deal, kind of looking at that Justin Jefferson benchmark. Brandon Ayuk for the San Francisco 49ers, also high likelihood that he will skip or hold out. He also wants a top-level contract, and again, that's one of those things where it's like, are you really going to give Brandon Ayuk a Justin Jefferson contract? I don't know. But it's been, you can tell the games have been going on back and forth. There's been talk about a lot of tension between them and the 49ers since they met. Been some cryptic social media posts, talks about potential suitors, which could just be coming straight from the agent, who knows. Hassan Reddick for the New York Jets also skipped OTAs. He's looking for a massive contract, around $25 million annually. Again, do you want to pay him that much? Not really sure. I think if you're the Jets and you're on a short-term window with Aaron Rodgers and the defense is expected to be a major part, maybe you do look at that. But, transition to the Jets has been handled pretty poorly, and so it just kind of increases the likelihood that you're going to end up seeing a holdout there. A little bit lower on the scale, kind of like a moderate to high chance, is Tristan Wirfs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also looking for a new contract. Looking for that Penei Sewell high-value contract. Pretty likely that ends up getting done, but assuming it's not done by training camp, there is some talk that he may not show up. Jamar Chase, also somewhat lower chance, but might not show up. Obviously, that's a terrible look for the Bengals if Higgins and Chase both hold out. I'm assuming they're going to want to get something done with Jamar Chase to prevent something like that. But he did skip OTAs. He does have a fifth-year option available, making it, kind of iffy on both accounts. Does Jamar Chase really want to screw with it and potentially have them pull that lever? But we'll see. Alvin Kamara, New Orleans Saints. Contract has very minimal guarantees going into the future. So, there's some money there, but, with the guarantees dried up, it's probably I'm not going to say lower money, but they can move on at any point. So that's leaving him feeling pretty insecure and wanting something different, a little bit more stable. He did sit out during mini camps, and so he may not show up for training camp. Cortland Sutton, Denver Broncos. Again, pretty moderate chance that he doesn't show up. It sounds like the talks have been more civil than some of these other ones. But, who knows? It's always a tactic. Cam Hayward, Pittsburgh Steelers. Even at 35 years old, dude is still playing at a high level, looking to get paid as such. Good for him, by the way. He did skip OTAs and has an injury. Apparently, he wants to play for 3 more seasons. So he's looking for a contract, but obviously doesn't have a ton of leverage at 35 and injured. But again, at the same time, it's freaking Cam Hayward. And then probably 2 of the lower ones that I've seen are Tyreek Hill with the Miami Dolphins. He does want a new deal, but I guess it's not something that has to get done like this year, but it's kind of on the radar. Like, this year, next year, we're going to need to rework this thing, get a new deal going. I guess he's expressed a desire, so that's the only reason he's really on the list is he's kind of mentioned, hey, I'd like an extension, but it hasn't really gone beyond that so far, so it's unlikely that he ends up, again, pulling that lever, but there's a chance. And then probably the lowest likelihood is Jordan Love, but he did make the list. I pulled these lists from a bunch of different websites, so it's not just one, but the one that did mention Jordan is from Bleacher Report, which I think they put out some of the dumbest crap in the world, but still... this is Maurice Moten, I believe, and he more or less wrote, let's see, some players need multiple productive years to get a massive salary raise. Jordan Love's agent can strike a big deal with Green Bay Packers after his client put together one promising season, so we don't need to go over all his stats. Despite Love's small sample size of playing time, the Packers believe he's a franchise quarterback. In an appearance of 97.3 the game, general manager Brian Gutekunst said he wants to get the deal done with the 25-year-old before training camp. Last offseason, the Packers reworked Love's contract. Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Seems like Green Bay made the right call. When reporters asked the Utah State product if he would play out the final year of his contract, he said, "We'll see," which created some speculation about a potential holdout. Love may not have to ponder the situation much longer because Gutekunst sounds motivated to get him to sign an extension before the team returns to the practice field this summer. Now, again, I think that all of that is exactly correct. However, I think both of them, remember, Gutekunst said for sure before training camp. I think both parties 100% wanted this to get done as soon as possible. Still wanted to get it done as soon as possible. But what if it doesn't? What if they come back, they reconvene, I'm sure the agent and the Packers have been talking for a while now about this, but, let's say they come back together and they're just not quite able to bridge the gap. We're getting close to time to report. Is there any conversation between the agent, between Jordan, about, we can't bridge the gap and they don't really seem to be very flexible. We may need to talk about maybe you don't go. Again, I don't think so. I really don't. Especially given the unique situation where Jordan has not put together a lot, especially as well as he's been playing. I mean, he could easily show up, demonstrate why the Packers want him by showing up, by being that leader, by showing how much support he has, and by continuing what he did in OTAs by just shredding defenses. On top of that, again, Jordan wants to be there. Jordan needs to be there. We got a new defense we got to work through. We got some new offensive stuff. You got a bunch of young guys. You're a young guy. You got to learn to work together. It's just really important. I don't know. I don't think so. But it is on the radar, and I don't know of anybody that's mentioned it. I certainly haven't heard it, and I haven't really thought about it until I was looking at potential holdouts, and I thought, well, wait a minute. Tell you what I'm going to do. There's a lot of different topics that came from NFL on NBC. This is Mike Florio. He covered a bunch of topics. That was kind of what got me with the ball rolling with the holdouts. He talks about the Sunday ticket thing. I find it interesting because he touches on exactly, first of all, what I touched on. Why is nobody talking about this? And he kind of goes through a whole list of kind of silly reasons. Like he says that he vowed to never go back to L.A. Maybe nobody wants to go to L.A. First of all, a bunch of media is already in L.A. Second of all, I'm guessing lots of media members would be happy to go to LA to cover. So I have no idea where that anecdote comes from, but he also goes on to kind of make the case about the NFL doing something kind of terrible. And I want to go through it because, number one, I like to understand the other perspective, but number two, some of the stuff he says is so absurd that it only goes to make me feel more correct in my understanding of this. Why don't we take our second break, and we'll come back and cover this as thoroughly as possible. We'll be right back. So we'll just, I guess, start it from the beginning because I agree that this is something that has massive, far-reaching implications that I'm shocked to not hear anybody really give a ton of time to. So I want to let him express that, and then we'll move on to phase two of what he thinks they did wrong.
I've been talking a lot about the Sunday ticket verdict and where it goes from here. One of the things that I pointed out today, and I've been trying to really figure out why more people in the media haven't been focusing on this. Two ways. One, there weren't a lot of people covering the case, to the point where Peter King texted me after the case was a couple of weeks old, you should have someone covering the case in LA. Well, the natural person to cover the case would have been me, and I really didn't want to pack up and go to LA for a couple of weeks. Those of you who have been around PFT for a while and remember when the Super Bowl was in LA, I kind of vowed to never go back. I was so anxious to leave. I almost left my luggage at the hotel. I called my wife and I said, I really don't have anything here that can't be replaced. I'm just going to leave all my shit and just come home. I'll bring my laptop. I just want to get the hell out of here. And it really wasn't, I say this and maybe it really wasn't a slap at LA. I'd been there before. It was just the first time I'd gone anywhere since the pandemic. And it was just a long, exhausting week. Nothing against LA per se, but I really didn't want to go back to cover this trial. I just wish that there would have been more robust coverage by the media outlets that were assessing their resources and making decisions about where reporters would go. And even since the verdict landed last week, I don't know whether it's, I want to be diplomatic here. I don't know whether it's complacency. I don't know whether it's failure to understand what's going on. I don't know whether it's kowtowing to Big Shield, not wanting to upset the NFL. I just feel like not enough media outlets have been covering what this verdict means, what its ramifications could be, and fundamentally, what the NFL did.
All right, so that's step one. Step one is, why the heck is nobody talking about this? I don't have an answer to that. Other than, I think, if I had to guess, most people look and they go, oh, there was some lawsuit about Sunday Ticket, and the NFL lost, and it's going to be appealed, and people, okay, and whatever. Like, number one, do I get a check? Number two, what does that mean? Well, I don't even know if anybody would even ask what does it mean for the NFL, because nobody would even get to that point of thinking what the consequences could be other than, wow, they lost another lawsuit, whoop-de-doo. But I want to give Florio an opportunity to explain, because entirely possible I missed something, what he feels the NFL did wrong here.
30 years of rigging the price of Sunday Ticket.
All right. He says rigging the price. What does that mean, rigging the price? So looking into it, and again, we're learning, we're growing here. It sounds like what they revealed, one of the things that they revealed was that the price was set artificially high. Now, again, if you set an artificially high price, that only serves to hurt you. Now, the NFL doesn't really give a crap, right? They put their product out there. But apparently, they worked with DirecTV. I don't know if they have what full evidence they have of this, but they work with DirecTV to set a price that is not a good market price, but to actually set it too high. Now, that's stupid from a DirecTV standpoint, which is why I don't understand why they would agree to do that. but let's just assume it's true. The thought process behind it is that they did that to protect the local channels who give this stuff away for free. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. So, DirecTV says we want to sell this premium package. The NFL says, fine, but you have to set a really high price, because if you don't set a really high price and you actually lower the price, then too many people will go and buy that. And if too many people go and buy that, then what happens? Not enough people are watching Fox, CBS, and then what happens? They lose money. If they lose money, they no longer carry it. So what happens? You no longer get free football. The NFL did something to protect the people that bring you free football so that they can continue to bring you free football. Do you understand that? Now, again, why would DirecTV do this? I don't know. Other than to say, you know what? We still think we can make money because it's exclusive, so this is the only place that people can get it, and we think enough people will still pay for it to be able to watch it. And on top of that, hopefully we'll get recurring business with people that stay with DirecTV, even if they, for example, drop their they drop off of Sunday Ticket. Presumably they're going to keep DirecTV because, somebody came out, they installed a freaking satellite and everything. So why not? But again, I just wanted you to keep that in the back of your mind as we go through and talk about the victims of this. The fact that the motivation behind it is to protect your ability to watch free football locally. That was what was actually uncovered through this. Well, how do you know that they colluded to artificially increase the prices? Well, because we know the NFL wanted to protect Fox and CBS as they provide free football. Oh, the horror, those evil bastards. Let's continue.
So that those who really wanted to see the out-of-market games badly enough would have to pay an inflated premium, and those who would have very much liked to have bought the package didn't buy the package. Mm-hmm. There's a whole subset of victims here that have no standing because they didn't buy it.
What a freaking loser. Victims? These are victims? People that would have liked to have it but couldn't afford it? We're going to call them victims? Oh. Listen, I'm in that category. I want it. And I would love the price to come down. I absolutely would. Dude, if you can get Sunday Ticket for I don't know, a more reasonable $30-$40 a month or something, I'm going to watch that. Bro, oh my goodness. Do you know how good it was when I had it for that almost a year? Like I said, it was so expensive, I actually paid to get out of it. But it was almost too much because I had 6 football games on at once, and it was just the most glorious thing in the world. But I couldn't afford it. I'm not a victim. It's more expensive than I can afford. Would I like the price to be down? Yes. Would I like to have it? Yes. But you're not a victim if you would like something, but you can't afford it. What a stupid comment. And people that did want it and paid for it paid a price that they felt it was worth, which is another thing that's hard. It's really hard for you to convince me that the price is set too high when people are willing to pay it. Who says what? Tell me how you know what the right price is. How do you know what an artificially high price is? Tell me what an artificially high price even means. What does that mean? In order for there to be a price that's too high, there has to be a price that is correct. How do you gauge that? How do you know what the right price is? Who sets the right price? Do all the victims who say I can't afford it tell you what they can afford and that's the right price? Because that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. Again, I can't afford a Ferrari. Does that mean that a Ferrari sets an artificially high price? Do we have some kind of regulation on this to begin with? Because if we don't, then you can't really tell me what an artificially high price is. The value of something is nothing more than what somebody's willing to pay for it. And there are a lot of people that were willing to pay for this. And the fact of the matter is, of all the quote-unquote victims like me, ladies and gentlemen, I am a victim. Of all the victims like me that couldn't afford it, guess what? If I had more money, do you think I would have paid for it? Yes. You know why? Because it's not too high of a price. Listen, if I want a steak and it's $10,000, if you give me $1 million, I can now afford that. Do you think I'm ever going to spend $10,000 for a steak? No, because that's stupid. It's overpriced. Based on what? Based on the fact that I'm not willing to pay that price for that product. The fact that DirecTV agreed to it and presumably made a profit off of it because of a massive amount of people who felt that was a good price. In other words, the value, would you rather have the money or would you rather have DirecTV? They chose DirecTV. That tells me the price is not too high. The fact that you found an email between the NFL and DirecTV saying, hey, could you please set this high to make sure that we don't encroach on these people giving away free football? I don't think that that's necessarily setting an artificially high price. I think that's a negotiation. You cannot buy this product if it's going to be this low, because then you're screwing with our other products. And this is one of those things, too, where people can't see past the tip of their nose. If you get what you want, you know what actually changes? Number one, there's no Sunday ticket, because they're not going to allow it to be sold at a lower price because that screws with the free game. Or number two, you lose your free games. But of course, we can't think outside the box. All we can do is sit and look and say, I don't like something, and so I want it fixed, and I want to punish the NFL because I don't like it. Oh, you poor child. Victims. Listen to this. Listen to this guy. All the victims. Think of all the victims that, that would like to have it but couldn't afford it. Oh, the victims.
I don't know, and I don't believe there's any avenue under the law for airing a grievance when you're someone who didn't buy something you would have bought and would have very much enjoyed for 30 years, but you didn't buy it because the NFL always put it at a price where it wasn't responsible for you to find a line item in the family budget to get it.
Well, as soon as you find that in the law, Florio, let me know, because there's been 30 years of me wanting Wagyu steak, but not being able to afford it. There's been, since I've been an adult and had a family, I've never been able to find a line item in our budget to put Wagyu steak. So as soon as you figure out where you can put that line item, don't worry, I'll put in there that there is a, what was the phrase you used? An irresponsible price. It's irresponsible for me to spend that amount of money. Therefore, it's illegal what you're doing. You're setting a price that is irresponsible for me. Therefore, it's irresponsible, period. Therefore, what you're doing is illegal. Therefore, I'm going to sue you so that because I have not been able to enjoy Wagyu steak for my entire life. In fact, the entire meat industry is out of control right now. I can barely afford chicken thighs. Have you seen the price of meat? Like, what am I supposed to eat? Bread all day long? Bread and rice and freaking grains, dude. I'm just going to eat carbs all day long? That's not healthy. What, do you want me to die? Government, law, legal system, where are you? Where are you to protect us poor victims from all the good food? I'm a victim. Everybody look at me, I'm a victim.
That's a category of victims that is voiceless in all of this.
Oh, I am a voiceless victim. Yeah, you get that? I'm not just a victim, I'm a voiceless victim. Oh, the horrors. Don't focus on the genocides around the world. No, look at me, the voiceless victim who didn't have it in my budget. Unless I was irresponsible, which I was, but when I was responsible, it was no longer in my budget to buy NFL Sunday tickets so I can watch 6 NFL games at once. I am a voiceless victim, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, patreon.com/pack_daddy to pay for my counseling bills, my legal bills, my medication that I need. I need lots of medication for all this voiceless victimhood that I've endured. Good Lord, this isn't even like when you say first world problems. This is so embarrassing and disgusting that this is a thing. The voiceless victims. Oh,
and those are the folks that I'm really kind of trying to highlight. That they got screwed here.
What a hero. He's highlighting the voiceless victims like me. Florio, oh, what a hero, man.
Cost them a penny. It did cost them the experience of watching the games they want to watch. They
Preach,
fall
brother.
into that target audience that all those commercials are directed at.
Yeah.
You're a Saints fan in Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
You're a Packers fan in Topeka.
Yeah.
You're a Rams fan in New York City.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Displaced fan that loves the sport and wants to watch the games played by his or her favorite team.
Right.
we're going to make it so expensive that you're going to have to unreasonably overpay for the
arbitrary definition. He just made that up, by the way. Unreasonably high. According to who? You have to demonstrate. You can't just keep saying it. You have to demonstrate it. But go on.
Privilege of watching the games, or you're just going to say, I can't. I just can't afford it.
Right, yeah.
Can't do it.
It's crazy that people can't afford some things and that we can't just enjoy whatever we want all the time. We should live in a cashless society that's just free from money. There should be no money. We should all just share everything and just get whatever we want all the time.
It's not the prudent thing for me and my family to do.
Yeah.
So the class action covers the people who paid for it.
Yeah.
There is a group out there that got screwed by the NFL.
The NFL's not getting sued enough, to be honest. $14 billion? That's not even close. That's not even a fraction. Think of all the people that didn't subscribe. There's millions of people who paid that unreasonable price despite feeling that it was reasonable enough for them to pay for it. Millions of people took part in this, right? Because apparently they're too stupid to know what is a fair price. They're idiots. They don't know. The real victims are the millions more that didn't pay for it because it wasn't reasonable, and nobody should have to not pay for something because it's too expensive. The voiceless victims. That's me, that's you, that's us. We are the voiceless victims.
Because they didn't buy it, because they couldn't buy it, because they wanted to buy it. And if it was cheaper, they would have bought it.
Yeah.
But this...
Boy, when I think of all the things that if it was cheaper, man, I would have a better smoker. I would have a freaking offset smoker. You know, they got some... Do you realize... Think about this. I want to make really high quality meat, right? I invest in as much as I can as far as the meat goes. Pork butt. And I put so much work. I put so much time and effort into it. I inject it, you know? I put a binder on it. I do layers of rubs. I start off with the SPG, and then I put on the barbecue rub. Hours and hours of labor, letting it rest for hours more, just to come out with an inferior product. Because my tools, my devices, the actual smoker that I'm using is not adequate. I paid what was reasonable to me. I have a Weber grill, and I have a Walmart pellet grill. That's all I have. You know, while the guys down in Texas and these frickin' rich people spend all this money. Do you know how much an offset smoker costs, like a really good one? They have some $10,000, $15,000. I can't afford that. I can't afford it. That's unreasonable. To spend $10,000 to $15,000 to smoke meat, that is an unreasonably high price. Who can pay for something like that? I can't. You know the cars I bought? The first time I bought a car, I bought it off a family member for $1,000. It didn't even have power windows. It had crank windows. It was this tiny little thing. My family called it Little Oreo. It was this tiny black Toyota Echo. It was actually my second vehicle. My first one I got handed to me for free. It was my grandparents' Astrovan, which I'm extremely grateful for. I love that vehicle, and it was very generous for them to give that to me. The point is, I would love to be driving a better car. I would love to have an Audi or a BMW, a Mercedes, at least a newer car with less wear and tear and damage on it. 150,000 miles worth of damage already done. Who knows how many oil changes they missed and everything else. But these car companies set unreasonably high, prices. And if you want to buy, one of the newer electric cars, some of these guys that go from 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds, 2 seconds even. If you want to participate in saving the environment, saving the world from the evils of fossil fuel, well, there's still fossil fuels, but, like electricity that's generated with fossil fuels as opposed to the fuel that you pump directly into the car. If you want to save the world, do you understand how much I have to pay for that? It's unreasonable for me, personally, with my budget, to buy one of those cars. I'm going to file class action after class action after class action here, folks. Florio said I can. I'm a voiceless victim.
Ultimately, it was all about preserving the multi-billion-dollar goose in the form of the CBS and Fox contracts.
Yeah, the multi-billion-dollar goose. First of all, this is not the NFL. So the idea that the NFL did something so that they can make a ton of money is stupid. The point is they're protecting people that already paid them a bunch of money, which you should do. If somebody pays you millions, hundreds of millions, however much money they pay for these rights, to then turn around and screw them by selling other rights to other companies who are going to steal all the business away. By the way, protecting the fans to make sure that these providers are able to continue to provide you with free football games. But again, no, we have to phrase it as protecting the the billionaires, protecting the billionaires. God, it's so boring. Shut up. You don't think that that's what you need to do? You don't think that it would make sense to honor what you did with these major programs that you've had business relationships for decades to protect their ability to provide your product to the fans for free? That doesn't seem like a good idea to you. You think that they should get screwed over because it's $1 billion golden goose. It's this evil billion. You just say billion and somehow everyone thinks it's an evil thing. Like, what are we talking about? No, they should be screw them. It's like the people that fought for, what was it, out in California, like $20 an hour minimum wage, and then they got it, and then they all lost their jobs. Like, or the same thing with, they fight for a union, and then they get fired. It's like, you have to think of the consequences beyond just the first step, where you made more money. Second step, you get fired. Like, can we think beyond the tip of our freaking nose here? You did it to protect the $1 billion golden goose. You mean Fox, when they provide games on Fox? Like, that's what we're protecting? I'm supposed to be mad at you? Because that frickin' Fox robot that comes out, like you're protecting that? And I'm supposed to be pissed? Okay, yeah, that's horrible. Damn you for protecting Fox from providing football games on Fox. You pieces of garbage.
For over-the-air, free TV, broadcast the game.
Sickening providing that to us.
Anyway.
Voiceless victim.
I'm the only one. If there's somebody else.
It's me. I'm with you.
Who's calling this exactly as they see it and exactly as it is, an exposure of corruption by the NFL, abuse of the consumers, taking more money than they should have from some fans, and also setting the price so high that it excluded other fans who would have taken advantage of that product, of that Sunday ticket package if it was priced reasonably. Remember, ESPN at one point wanted to do $70 for the full season. Why wouldn't somebody just make a single team option available? That's how they market the damn.
Bro, that's how cable has been since forever. Why don't you just why don't you just allow this one thing? And the answer is very obvious. Do you know why? Because if you did single team packages, some would just make no money. And so what you would have is DirecTV or ESPN or whatever. They would provide games for the Packers, for the Cowboys, for the Patriots, for half the NFL. And the other, there just wouldn't be anything. There would be no Chargers package. Why? Because we can't make money with it, especially with these low prices that Florio is suggesting. But again, the NFL doesn't give a crap. It doesn't benefit the NFL to have the price $1 billion because they're not the ones profiting. They don't make the money. DirecTV makes the money. So the fact that the NFL insisted on there being a higher price to protect Fox and NBC or CBS has nothing to do with the NFL trying to make money, trying to make more money. It has to do with trying to protect other entities that are offering your product for free in fear of those companies saying, we lost all our business. Nobody's watching these football games anymore, so we're not going to provide these football games, at least not for, unless you offer significant discounts, which again, what is the NFL going to do then? No more Sunday ticket. They're just going to pull it. It's not worth it. It's not worth offering Sunday ticket just to torpedo CBS, Fox, NBC, etc. So again, these are your options. High Sunday ticket prices, no Sunday ticket, or no free games. This was the compromise. If you want it, we can offer it, but it's going to be kind of a high price because we need to protect the free games. I mean, it's a rationale. Well, you colluded. Colluded. We set a price. do you mean colluded? How do we collude? The NFL said you can offer our product at this price. And DirecTV said, okay. And then they offered it. And then millions of people said, that sounds dope. And they paid for it. And then millions more said, nah, that's too much money. And they didn't. That's it. That's the whole freaking story. There was evil collusion with billionaires. Oh, God. So stupid. So tired of everything being a giant conspiracy theory with the evil people. The evil people. It's the rich, it's the right, it's the left, it's the Jews, it's the Americans, it's the West, it's the communists. It's always something. Shut up. And this guy's a lawyer. This is and again, this is what I don't like about like legalese, because it's a way of taking really stupid things and making it sound like really smart. And it's like, well, you just don't understand the law. This violates antitrust. Okay, but if you break it down into simple terms, this is idiotic. The fact that you have to like make it all highfalutin and use Latin to make it seem like it's a thing.
Well, technically, there's precedent based on Stevenson v. the state of Delaware.
Bro, this is stupid. This is stupid. You need a PhD to be able to convince yourself that it's not, which I agree would take a lot of education to be able to find a way to convince yourself that this is not something stupid. You have to be a genius to be this stupid. Anyways, I, the voiceless victim, am going to leave it at that. I expect all of you to refer to me from now on as the voiceless victim. If you call into the show, please identify yourself as one of the voiceless victims, or one of the voiced victims that did pay for this, but of course is still a victim because you paid a price that you felt was fair, but you didn't like it, which I completely understand. I do that all the time. Like, I pay for this freaking house. I'd rather not. It's too much. It's a lot of money, dude. Like, I pay for car insurance. I do it because it's worth it, but I don't want to. It's too high. I'd rather it was lower. You know what I mean? It's crazy. You know, it's $40 to park at Six Flags. $40. That's crazy. I'm going to do it because it's worth it, because the rides are dope. But that seems crazy. That's, we should file a lawsuit. Anyways, the voiceless victim is out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.